Hello and welcome to this unique episode of For Your Journey. On this episode, we're still exercising some social distancing. We're not in a normal studio situation, but we wanted to talk about a topic that's come up a couple times during this time, and that's grief. Grief particularly has a lot of different forms, and there's grief of opportunities or events that people were looking forward to. Obviously, graduations or different life events, birthday, big celebrations and things, people are grieving those because they're not able to happen. But obviously that doesn't compare to the type of grief that would come from loss of a loved one, a family or friend. Whether it's from the virus or not, people are dying from other causes during this time as well. And we just wanted to talk about that in regards to how we can understand grief during this time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, grief is to do with our feelings, and nothing takes that away. It's a sense of loss, as you said, that we can feel at different times in our lives over various matters, but most intensively when we lose a loved one. Um, and we can be very faithful, and we believe, and our faith helps us cope with grief, but it never eliminates it because it's related to love. Grief is a product of love, and so we grieve. And but the beautiful thing about it is the Lord knows that, and we see the famous Bible verse in the Bible when Jesus wept with Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
It showed Christ also understood and felt grief.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lord knows we grieve, and so He wants to also give us comfort in our grief.
Yeah, and particularly with that example of Jesus weeping at the tomb of Lazarus, like I imagine Jesus knew what was about to happen anyway. Like he knew he
Mm-hmm.
had the power he to bring Lazarus back to life, and still there's this momentary separation, and that pains him. It proves that we're emotional beings too. He gave us emotions to feel deeply.
Exactly. And he wanted to feel the grief. He was a true man, so he has to feel that as well.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that normally helps people, with the grieving process when someone passes away is a funeral or a memorial service. And right now, those can't really happen, or at least happen in the ways we've been accustomed to them. What could we say to someone in that situation?
It's a difficult situation. That's not possible to do it, as you said, as we normally would, and we have to adapt to the circumstances we have. Some could opt to say, let us wait some months until we can come back into the church and have it in somewhat of a normal way, even though there may be restrictions yet for some months coming. Another possibility is to make a very small, restricted funeral, just a few people, to give some closure to the closest relatives together, and then perhaps have a memorial service in the future, to remember their loved one, again, some months away. Um, the concern is that if one waits and doesn't do anything, and then goes on and on and on, 3, 4, 5 months, it sort of reawakens everything all over again, and
Mm-hmm.
that's hard to cope with too.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've heard sometimes in funerals, I don't know if I've heard lately, I don't remember, but about this releasing of the soul too. That happens in one of these funeral services where the soul is, the body's commended to the earth, and then the soul is released. Can you bring some clarity on that?
Yes, that's something that is done in a funeral service. We say that's done in the funeral service, and it is we say we commend the soul into the care of Christ, and we deliver the body, ashes to ashes, dust to dust,
Mm-hmm.
into the earth. But we must recognize the Almighty God, in His wisdom and in His power, has already provided for that. And we say it. It's actually Christian words that are said in almost every Christian funeral, but God acted the moment the soul died. The moment of death, the soul and spirit are taken into the realm of God, and He puts that soul where it needs to be. and does not leave it in limbo or hanging until we finally get around to doing a funeral service. We can imagine there's billions of souls that have died in wars and in the oceans and whatsoever, and no one ever spoke nothing over them. And do you think that they can just hang there? The chief apostle Pharaoh already many years ago said, no, God acts, he works, and he cares for all souls because he loves all souls. And so he puts them where they need to be.
No,
And those words really are for our comfort,
Mm.
to bring closure to us, to realize, okay, now that soul is in the hands of God. We hear those words and that strengthens us and we feel good then, but God has already acted before we've said it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for us to understand and have the assurance of God's love and his care.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, thank you for bringing some clarity there. And definitely our hearts go to those that have to experience these types of grieving emotions during this time. So thank you.
Especially in this time, because
Yeah.
it's very difficult in these days not to be able to be together even with our brothers and sisters and the family,
Mm-hmm.
as we have always come to comfort one another, and that is not so easy today. So we especially remember and pray for them.
Yes, definitely. So, well, thank you for joining us on this episode of For Your Journey. If you have any suggested questions or topics for future discussion, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. And this has been For Your Journey.